My name is Julio González Altamirano. I am a member of AURA, which is a grassroots all-volunteer advocacy group that is focused on improving Austin, making Austin for all of us through land use and transportation policy reform. I was told I have 4 slides, so I'm going to make them count. And it turns out that the important number is 4. And this is a challenge for all of us. Can we get beyond 4%? 4% is our current transit commuting mode share. So that means that 4% of people going to work in the morning are taking transit there. Here's a sample of cities that you should remember, because one of them is Atlanta. And Atlanta, while not exactly like us, is a southern city that is sprawling and low density, and it has a 10% transit mode share. It tells us it is possible. No one's saying let's go to New York's 56%, but we can do better. And the questions that many of you faced on the campaign trail about congestion and affordability go through this 4%. So whenever you see item 44 on the agenda, I want you to think about 4%. Whenever your aide says, hey, the meeting's at 4, I want you to think, what am I doing about 4%? I know that for Councilman Kassar, 4% is going to be a little bit easier to remember. You've heard a few ideas about what we need to do to relieve congestion, and I'm here to tell you both the good news and the bad news. Research resoundingly shows that in a region that is growing as a result of job creation, you're not really going to solve congestion. You can add highway capacity, but that just simply encourages development further away, which then compounds travel times. You can try and use price by making a place unaffordable, right? And that in some ways will reduce congestion, but I don't think that is your goal. And no one here ran on a job destruction platform. The types of things that we would need to do to truly reduce congestion, cancel the medical school, nobody wants to do. So then what are the tools that we have available? Your transportation director mentioned 3, and one of them we don't believe is going to work, which is expanding capacity. But 2 certainly can. Behavior change, right? As well as using underutilized capacity towards the outskirts of town or wherever we might find it. But the reality is that to get to affordability and actually give people a chance to not be stuck in a single passenger vehicle trip, we have to use transit. And because 92% of our trips in this town are bus, the solution in your term and in the next 10 years is going to have to be bus. This chart visualizes the history from 1991 to 2013 of bus. And it's a story of increasing trips, but then stagnation. We've been stuck at around 35 million trips, and we've had actually reductions, and a small reduction is anticipated in the coming year. We've poured a lot more money until 2008 because we started to shift resources towards the red line. And we had a deterioration in purchasing power between 1999 and 2008 that meant that even though we were using more money for bus, we were buying less service hours. Luckily, in the last few years, this has one of the big accomplishments of Cap Metro, which is to try and get a hold of that cost problem to try and buy more hours. Unfortunately, we're kind of just stuck there. And what we need to do is find ways of using the money we do have more productively, as well as supporting ridership by giving them the tools to have more riders. It turns out that if you look at the factors that can contribute to the productivity of transit dollar use, there's a few things that the transit agency can do itself. Research by Brian Taylor at UCLA shows that about 24% has to do with having low fares, because transit riders are oftentimes very price sensitive, and frequency instead of coverage. You've talked about this a little bit today, which is why can't we have more routes and more places? And that's because a coverage approach to using transit dollars creates higher per rider subsidies since those vehicles have lower riders. So it makes a lot more sense to have a relatively more compact, higher frequency service. But what this research showed is something very interesting and something that should be very important to you as you make your decisions. The bulk of determining transit productivity is not within the transit agency. It's within factors outside of it. And two of the most important factors are factors that you control. So the bulk of the explanation for why we're not at 10%, why we're at 4%, lies with choices made by this body. In particular, density. Nobody likes density because it threatens incumbent homeowners who are highly politically active. But the research and the experience and the expertise tells you over and over, if you do not create transit supportive density in certain parts of the city, there is no way for people to use existing transit resources more productively. Moreover, and this is a story that surprises many people, while the story of the region is growth, the story of the core, and in many of your districts, is actually depopulation as a result of cohort replacement by newer folks that already are done raising their kids, or having fewer kids, or have no intention of having kids. As a result, there are fewer people. Many of them are not necessarily going to use transit. And so the policy outcome of how we have pursued land use is a reduction in the places where it would be most effective to use transit in the potential ridership pool. Luckily, there are solutions. There are many solutions, and you are the right body to do them. Let's go through them. First and foremost, and this is why it's in yellow, it has to do with how you use your land use powers. You must promote transit supportive density. Some of you might think that's just when cases that come in front of you, you have to decide them for density. Sure, but you also have to change the rules. So much of the damage to transit is done by the things that can never come to you because our rules are so tough. Moreover, some of the things that you need to do that would be helpful are already things that you know about and are on the books and can be incremental, whether it be granny flats or micro units or reducing parking requirements. Second, as the CEO of CapMetro said, and you know, dedicated lanes can help significantly by giving the right-of-way to vehicles that can hold more people. And much like we've done Code Next, you need to think about time for parking next. The different incentive structures that we have, how we manage residential parking permits as opposed to parking and transportation management districts, all of those create incentives for people to stay in their cars. The failure of Proposition 1 at the local level has freed up a significant amount of bond capacity for new capital initiatives. And one of the things I would challenge you to think about is some of the things that you can do that, as research indicates, would support a car-free or car-light lifestyle that doesn't have to do with heavy rail or light rail. Bike. You have a significantly wonderful plan coming to you and passed unanimously from the previous body. It is focused on core trips. It is high ROI, as you will discover. I hope that you will be ambitious with it. Sidewalks. All of you have neighborhoods where sidewalks could help. Prioritizing and going big on a capital vision around building sidewalks, especially that support bus corridors, is a win. Many of you will want to do something around housing. As you think about the programs that you design that will use city money for housing, I hope that you will challenge yourself to think about both how you can support market rate and subsidize. And there are a variety of innovative approaches that you should consider, including transit-oriented development funds, as well as community land trusts that should be funded by these new initiatives. Your appointments will be critical, not only to CMTA and Campo, where we hope that you will send individuals that are interested in making bus at least have equal time in terms of mind share, if not be the priority, but also to your own committees, particularly around land use. You can use a persuasion pulpit, and in particular, I hope that you will target the University of Texas, where its new leader recently said that they would be interested in building more dormitory housing and potentially increasing shuttle service. Go get that win. And finally, make sure that you appoint staff to the different studies that are happening so that your constituents, many of whom are bus riders or want to be bus riders, are represented in the vision that is being developed. The regional governance is stacked against you. There are only 3 city appointments out of 8 to CapMetro. There are only 4 city appointments to Campo, 4 if you add Travis County out of the 20. By design, at the neighborhood level, your voices have a tough time percolating. It is appointees of appointees developing the plans. You can through your own voice and your staff, make sure that your neighborhood interests are represented if you participate in those studies.
Thank you very much. Thank you.